Good evening, welcome to Sunday Live. It's Dumelo Mototwane. Well, Entrepreneurship Week is the world's largest collaboration and celebration of innovators and job creators, startups, and also break life. They drive economic growth and human welfare. Now, it marks the end of global entrepreneurship. So if you missed out, it's already, but actually started 17th of November this month. Now, Sunday Live is talking to young entrepreneurs who are doing, but we'll get to know them a little bit later. For now, though, I'm asking you a question. With global entrepreneurship actually taken over South Africa by week, do you think the economy is conducive in encouraging entrepreneurs? Well, no. And your comment, our SMS line, which is 340. And you can always like and page, which is Sunday Live on SABC, and on Twitter at Twane and at Sunday Live is one, and do hashtag Sunday Live is. Now, getting back to our guests for this, joining me tonight is the owner of the Lazy Mago, and it is a cooking lessons. Owner actually quit her auditing to pursue her dream of becoming a brave net. That's exactly what I said. Also joining me is Mongezi, who owns WordStart, which is a word of marketing company. He's connect with people and honest conversation. Welcome to.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. When I thought of, and when I actually read your businesses, what you do, I thought it's difficult. What keeps you both going? What made you even start, businesses? We'll start with you, Mara.
I think the difficulty working in corporate, anyone in corporate will let you know how difficult it is. I always had this thought in my head that one day, and I kept postponing. I was like, if I don't do it now.
So what is the Lazy Makoti?
It is basically cooking class, nothing pretentious. It's South African food. So the went from living at home and raised and never really got to learn, had a helper. So he wants to learn how to make papo chaka. That's where I come in.
I love how with the just look in there. But why Lazy Makoti, if I may ask?
A play on words. African culture, if you can't cook, you're lazy. So you come to not the Lazy Makoti.
Aha, there you have it. Now, Mongezi, thank you so much for also joining. And speaking of words, tell me more about it.
So, WordStart is companies to connect with people, real, honest conversation. Statistics and research is people trust advertising, and they trust and people who recommend products about 92% more. Advertising. So this is what drives what is, instead of ourselves as a business, we see ourselves more as a network of people whom products or not recommend, our preferences and our interests.
Mouth actually came from, I can imagine.
It's just that social media have the conversations that we can have, as much so that he does something and a billboard on the corner of a street, conversation will reach 1 million people than an advert by the television.
That is so interesting stat right there. But challenges in South Africa. Poor question to our viewers: if the economy is even conducive enough in South Africa, what would
my be a yes. Entrepreneurs are not people who necessarily wait for it to them. They are the people who question, go out and start something. If I'm saying with that is slightly better economy in Kenya, then people in Kenya are starting more people in South Africa, then South Africa is an economy to start a business. More people buying from the small guy, you would potentially, that's less developed than South Africa. My first quick answer would be a yes, except at the same time, we're not as advanced as economy when Silicon Valley billion US dollars, right? Economy.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, when you have local problems and businesses.
And how do you share this? Found it easy to. You left a very comfortable job, I can imagine, as an auditor. But have you found the economy to start your own business?
Yes and no. Yes, there is a market. South Africa is so diverse and they're ready and accepting of things. So there is a market for in South Africa. But it's so hard to get capital, hard to approach a bank and support that way.
With you, did you have to access capital from the bank? You know, take out some funds from.
I try to can, but for any entrepreneur or a startup, I don't need that you think you're going to need that number because you're going to very quickly.
And you know, it's funding seems to be a very, when it comes to startups in South Africa, you find situations where business owner that will receive the funds from various institutions able to make payments and not be able to use the money. What would make that a problem, Mongezi?
That's a very interesting question for me, because before I started this business, I had started this with a partner and we were able to, but we needed a lot more. Say we raised 50,000 rand, the two of us, but by our estimation would need, say, out successfully. So that was the challenge that we had. That business see the light of day, right? The outside of the theorizing that we with the guy that I was working
with that.
The problem first, being a entrepreneur, let me just use the word entrepreneur to start up. Being an entrepreneur is so it's a journey of hits and along the way. For one person works in corporate and builds businesses. It's and misses in both. You work in corporate, you'll get hired, you'll get fired, get demoted. The same thing happens in entrepreneurship, except in entrepreneurship, could mean you lose 5 million and you have to start up again. So,
with the same excitement.
Yes, exactly. Say, I mean, the difference, there are many differences. The one that I always think about, who receives money and starts a, is that the theory and the business case paper don't always make sense in the real world. Constantly be testing your idea, testing the business in perpetual startup mode for years, but they are constantly and rebuilding and retesting and selling this startup and bang, the next fail. And right level at Google's level dollars, whereas could be a couple of thousands, a couple of. So the one thing is, as a business, I that amount of money and have level, but my knowledge is down. That's part of it. That when you start move from a business that 1,000 rands, and I receive tomorrow, I've got 10 of challenges to face and 1,000 rand experience as an entrepreneur.
Having the entrepreneur during Global Entrepreneur ended off today, but our discussion straight after this home to continue being patient and call me on 08080 entrepreneurship stories. The straight after. Sunday night right here on SABC. We are talking entrepreneurship. Remember, this is actually the end of Entrepreneurship Week, and we know activities buzzing in and around the shore within the rest of. But also, you can tell me what you do in this week or share your stories on 011714. We have Benson on the live. Hi, ke gona kae? Hey. Please.
Yes, mina sisi ukubuza ukuthi ngisama from time engibonakalayo kana. And ngisema sengiqala and then I position abathe bafuna ukungifunda and then mase no emthini yenze imali enough ukuthi funda and then but ngikwazi ukuthi why did it ukuthi bangangifunda.
All right, Benson. So when are the issues around defunding processes? All right. Thanks, Benson. Share their journey with you. I have Christine on the line from Sunday Live.
Hi, Tumelo. Hi. I was want to comment on the whole. Is South Africa for new entrepreneurs, and the gentleman on your seat speaking some very, very fundamental that many entrepreneurs are facing. And I think to answer your question, South Africa is opportunity for business when I was 25 years old, and that was 5 years ago. I wrote a business plan and I started with any funding at all. The laptop and the cell phone and 2 rand in my bank account. It takes a little bit of inspiration, going around and never giving up. I think funding is probably the least of.
Interesting.
There's so much of opportunity. There's many opportunities for partners, synergies, and alliances. This is one aspect of entrepreneurship just don't even consider.
Amazing. I think you're just reiterating what he was talking about, saying entrepreneur journey. And you asked me of one of the activities at Maboneng where they had the festival of, where it said that the new innovation when entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the major aspects that we in the advertising industry as well. When we pitch for many clients to large corporations or they ask us what we have as a small business. We may even the much larger international. But when we go on to the board, the strong alliance, we win the tenders outright. We're all proudly South African businesses.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that very thank you. For let's talk about and I mean we've heard the first about funding he is facing. What's your journey been like?
Also difficult because I hadn't anticipated just what I would need. I had saved, like I said, I hadn't just how much money I would need. That's also kind of because it forces you to be creative and to try and think of around the problem. Pop-up shops it's all the craze because to have your own shop in a kind of rent, you sort of how else am I going to reach out to the customer? So I guess the leg does also help you be a creative entrepreneur.
And also your relationship with customers and your clients. I'm sure it's very important. You said, Munges, word of mouth is everything.
I think, I mean, for me, it was one of those things as well. You have business, you have to almost yourself the equivalent of your salary, your last job, and to do it from day one. I didn't even have a PC. I had to write up every day or at night, go to an internet cafe, type it up and email it at the same time. So about finding a way, in as much as you want the rocket, you know, can start by building something, takes you to the rocket, you fund it yourself. Assume absolutely nothing until you get something. And one of the ways to get yourself to is for people to pay for. I mean, I'm fortunate to sell a service, so I have, you know, hundreds, thousands of stock in a warehouse. A person says, okay, cool, yeah, I know that in 30 days I'm paid for the work that I'm doing. So it is essentially, I mean, one of the things that helped me over the years is to during dry, there's nobody paying for what I'm to sell a skill. I mean, as Benson sells, so he may not be buying the flowers, but he, you know, if you wake him up at 2 up at flower arrangements, you do that. There are many companies that are bigger than him. Want a flower arrangement person, the consultant on weekends.
Interesting. Well, we're going to conversation after this break, and when we come back, so make sure you're part of this conversation and you also us and you comment on our Facebook regarding entrepreneurship. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Sunday Live, SABC 1. Well, I asked you for the break if you felt our economy is conducive enough startups within South Africa. And as on your screens at this very moment, 70% of our no, it is not. Yes, it is. So I don't listen to our conversation or even the call saying, yes, there's so much opportunities. But how do you both feel about a poll question and the vote so far?
It's quite worrying that 20% of South Africans think that it's not so because that means is willing to start their own business. Don't leave job creation to we have all seen how that's going, to chip in and do our part.
It's lack of information, lack of actually what's happening out there. That there are, you know, to fund and sponsor information much.
A little, but I don't want to have this culture of handouts. So people don't maybe have the knowledge. Things are changing now. There's so many incubators. There's so many agencies that are willing to give out information. I don't think that's the problem.
I'll start with a very harsh comment that, in my mind, probably 2 out of 10 people are not, right? So I think we are entrepreneurs. This idea, you have a business, you have before breakfast every single day. Okay.
Don't you always feel like God idea at a time? Okay,
you know what I mean? and at least say that probably 70% of business fail within the first 2 years, right? So out of the 10 I started with, 7 of them are out of 2 years. Okay, so these are just out there that in reality, in theory, we see people getting in businesses, and the one guy who gets out of 100,000 that got rejected, it's all the, you know, all the newspaper, everything, and it looks like, well, the world is great out there for people who start business. But in actual reality, business, you know, people are sinking because there isn't this safety net that you know, if I'm off, somebody will be making the claim back. I can claim leave. You don't. Yeah. Chances are you'll probably lose that you have.
And Pena, let's talk about myths and mistakes that most entrepreneurs, or in your experience as well, or just in, you know, conversations with fellow entrepreneurs, most made by young entrepreneurs.
I think care of your customer, just relationship, take care of it. If you treat someone right, they will come back again, and they will like of mouth is every.
And the myths as well that we've also.
I agree completely with Mukhao's. I think one of the other things that I realized later business was that I go out there to market, to what we do, to, you know, attend conferences, but somehow don't treat this as my very first prioritized business. So if my clients, you know, would I start at 8 a.m.? Would I finish work at 5 p.m.? Start work at 6 p.m. and finish work at, you know, at midnight every evening. Client, take care of this before you go out there and look for new business.
Got it. Makes sense to me. Now, before we let you, dear Lazy Makoti, start, I wanted to know, on behalf of all the gentlemen that actually want to South African and African cuisines, Lazy Mkhonyana business coming soon. You actually thinking of expanding men to cook?
Well, I've had those quite a few, but I'll keep it to the ladies. I mean, I want you guys to get married, so I will teach her, marry her, and then she can be in your kitchen, so you don't need to learn.
In the meantime,
so that's yeah. In the meantime,
well, then hurry up.
So you don't have to. You won't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And as well, that you have for your future business.
The one constantly is that we just need to build a platform to partner with an existing platform and be able to link more accurately to sales. Where we're going.
And just in closing, because we're highlighting global entrepreneurship, Is it helping? You know, this week is highlighting all the questions that are to have answered. Do you think it's effective? Working?
I would say it's a difficult one. I feel enough gatherings of like from startups, seasoned, experienced entrepreneurs.
No.
Opportunity that exists for that to happen. Thing.
Very briefly as well.
Start, but we need a whole lot more. Entrepreneurship is fiercely low. To have a gathering of would be highly beneficial.
Thank you so much. Start and thank you both for coming. Yes. Thank you, and thank you so much to you for leave you in the words of Richard Branson, who said, and I quote, "I can honestly have never gone into any business to make money. If that is this, then I believe you are better off not. A business has to be involved, fun, and it has to be to your creative instincts." As your host, Tumelo Mototwane, good night.